Here we are,
Hey
guys.
guys, how's everyone doing?
Hi, Klaus, James, Jordan, Joseph. Welcome aboard. Go ahead, Simone.
Okay, so thank you so much for being with us today. It's a real pleasure. It's great to see all these beautiful faces in one place. I would start with James. So James, let's start with Channel Manager. Okay, so first of all, let me tell you more about the chapters. Chapter number 3, PMS, CRS, RMS, and broken integration. So we talk a little more about the tech stack in the hotel landscape, right? So let's start with Channel Manager, and who's better than SiteMinder to start that? So James, a question. Yeah, a question for you. What do you think should be the right characteristic of a channel manager, like the fundamental features? And
sure.
I'm sharing your slide right now.
Absolutely, yeah, thanks. So I did just drop down some notes, just some pointers to talk through. So while you're sharing that, just firstly, thank you very much for inviting SiteMinder along and giving us the opportunity to contribute with this chapter. I think it's definitely front of mind for a lot of people about distribution and how that's going to look in the future. So you're asking me about the characteristics of a channel manager. And I think if you look back, 8 years ago, when maybe the whole channel management environment was a bit less mature, it was really a point of taking this guy on the right who's stuck behind his desk and updating all his channels to really release him from the desk and get people back out in front of guests, and take that manual task away. And it's really over time escalated from that and become a lot more, people are relying a lot more on channel management from a data perspective, and actually being able to use that data, getting that data right back into the PMS. And now even from the, not just the PMS, but onwards to hundreds of different types of platforms. But the key characteristic that's not changed from channel managers is that they are taking your distribution, your inventory, and distributing you to multiple places, getting you much more visibility within the accommodation buyers market, whether that's B2C or B2B. So the depth in connectivity, and certainly for the market that a hotel is sitting in, making sure they're working with a channel manager that is really set up for increasing the visibility and driving demand to their hotel, but not just the number of channels, but actually the strength in that connectivity. Key characteristics being obviously the reliability, the speed, and the functionality that comes through that, because it's not a tick box exercise to be a channel manager. It's like, do I have that channel tick? Do I have that channel tick? But it's making sure that of each of those channels, you're giving hoteliers the tools to be able to manage their rates exactly how they want to. If they want to be distributing different rates to different channels, or multiple rates to a single channel, or doing promotions, or is there content involved? So making sure that the functionality and the reliability of those are really becoming key characteristics more and more these days. But of course, there's no point having a platform if you can't use it. So, you tend to find more and more the platforms that are coming out these days, or how platforms are being developed. And I can certainly talk from our own experience. It's all about the effort that we put into ensuring the use of the product takes just as long as actually building the functionality. So the amount of time we spend with customers and internally in workshops and bringing people in to work through exactly how they want to use a product and how that works, it's easily 50-50 on our, or if not more, in terms of our development time versus that actual consumer research. And again, it's not always about the product. So in those first 3 points is very much product related, but then you have to really look at who's providing a channel manager. And again, more and more the characteristics of the channel manager is derived from the company itself, and their values in terms of driving support for the customers. Like, do I get 24/7 support? is it being supported in a local language? So, the translations of platforms is becoming absolutely key. And of course, are these guys providing me a solution for today, or are channel managers now more and more looking much further forward into the future and saying, okay, we're not just providing, connection from point A to point B, but actually, channel managers now, as a key characteristic, are actually providing connectivity to a lot more different platforms. And if you just knock onto the next slide there, Simone. So you can see that from, this slide, I do tend to recycle them. So apologies if people have seen this one before, but from a connectivity standpoint, channel managers are known typically for, the OTA, the wholesaler, and potentially GDS. But obviously over the last few years, meta search has become a much higher thing, as we've just heard from Pablo in the previous chapter. Giving people flexibility in how they're distributing to their direct channel, the integration to the PMS, and now more recently, it's like taking that data and distributing it to third parties, such as sending guest data onto review management platforms, CRMs, upsell platforms, and guest messaging platforms. So, the characteristics have changed greatly over the last couple of years. And, I'm actually really looking forward to seeing how that progresses in the next 12, 18, 24 months.
So do you think, because a lot of the times, whenever we think about channel manager, we think about a tool that is invisible to the final guest, right? So we tend to, for example, be more picky with choosing a channel booking engine rather than a channel manager. Do you have this, like in your experience, do you have hotels that are less worried about channel manager and more worried about booking engines, and so they end up buying maybe a bundled solution directly from the booking engine?
It's a good question, and it really does depend on, as you say, what that hotel is looking for. I think really they are solving two problems, so it's not something that you would necessarily, you would have to look at each part of the platform on their own merits. And whilst we, in our blood, in our DNA, historically are a channel manager provider, we've had our own direct booking engine since 2008. But we're not saying, hey, look, buy our channel manager, you have to take our booking engine. We integrate to 80 different direct booking engines, because you have to give hoteliers that choice in terms of how they want to sell their rooms. What works for one hotel doesn't necessarily work for another. And It's down to technology providers to make sure that their products are attractive to a broad range of hotels, but at the same time not spreading their products so thin that you become jack of all trades and not master of one, and master of absolutely none. But like I say, it's the same from the PMS world as well. Like and Joseph will be hopefully in agreement. Like you have PMSs that will say, look, you take my PMS, you take my channel manager, you take my booking engine, you take my revenue management system, and look, that might suit someone. And historically, it's because they've had a bad support experience with multiple platforms where, I have a problem with that reservation or with that particular interface, and one technology provider is saying, not my problem, you need to speak to them. Understandably, hoteliers say, look, I just want to speak to one person. I just want to go to one place. This should not be a problem anymore. I mean, that's an old world problem from when we had serial interfaces, and which were very unreliable. These days, integration between platforms and actually the technology that support our companies, like enable us to communicate with news in real time when we have any issues between our support, and the relationships we have there are, very good. So I mean, it's really a hangover from bad technology in the past, which kind of drives a lot of that behavior as well, or that thought process in when people are looking at technology.
Yeah, and bad experiences as well. Yeah, so you're right.
Exactly.
Past experiences. Okay, and that opens my question for Joseph. So Joseph, I'm sharing my screen now with your presentation. And whenever we talk about PMSs, the first question is always the same: cloud or legacy, right? And like, let's try to explain this for somebody that never heard the word cloud or the word legacy. Can you just briefly explain what's the difference between the two projects?
I guess the easiest way to describe it is that a legacy system needs to be installed on site. It has a lot of hardware requirements. It requires on-site support, whereas cloud is the complete opposite. There is no need for an on-site installation. There is no need for hardware. And I guess you can compare it in the simplest terms of how we used to watch TV about 10, 15 years ago, when you had someone coming around to your house and having to install everything, versus today when you just open your laptop and switch on Netflix. I think that's the easiest way to describe it.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. Okay, so you can see my screen, right?
Yes, I can, yeah. Thanks. Well, first of all, I can't mirror James more, to be honest, because I think, he's spoken about the technology, but also about the values. And the main thing here is that the technology aspects that you can see there, the openness, innovation, collaboration, and transparency that I'm going to be talking about, also have to be mirrored in the values of the company that you're working with and that you are choosing to work with. Because unless that's achieved, you will become or you will get the disparate systems that we used to experience many, many years ago. But today, the partnerships between companies are so open and close and collaborative that actually you can create an amazing first-class platform for the consumer, in this case, hoteliers, through multiple providers. So what I wanted to talk to you about today is the cloud versus legacy and those aspects there. So first of all, with regards to cloud, of course, I've already mentioned, the installation is a lot easier. There is reduced implementation times, and of course, you get free regular upgrades. They just happen. No one has to come on site and reinstall the software. Just to give you an example from the last 4 months, which this pandemic has shown us, where we weren't able to move forward with on-site installations, which were expected from a property management system provider. We did every single installation since April online, completely online, with no one having to go on site, which is amazing for a property management system.
Wow.
And that is the future. And it accelerated the acceptance from hoteliers actually to say, yeah, this is possible and we can work in this way. And of course, often I find that there is a juxtaposition in terms of the security and data, where often, especially larger groups, feel that they are giving away the security that they want to keep to the provider if they move to the cloud, which is to a certain degree true. But I believe that cloud systems are much more secure than on-site systems. You don't have to worry about the hardware that you're holding in the hotel. You don't have to worry about the maintenance of it, about blocking it off from the internet, and so on. So that is also another a huge aspect of it. The next one I wanted to talk about is openness. So we have over 400 integrations. And the reason why we have 400 integrations is because we have an open API. Anyone can come along and code to our open API. But that is, again, underpinned by the relationships and partnerships we have with SiteMinder, Ideas, and many, many other partners that are out there that enable us to provide a frictionless experience for the hotels in connecting all these different systems together. Then when we look at cloud versus legacy, again, you have innovation. Because you have choice, you can implement cloud computing and AI in a much simpler way. which then leads to being able to realize ideas to diversify the hotel's business. I mean, one example, again, News is looking at diversifying not just the sale of rooms and beds, but also other resources that the hotels have, and to manage them in one platform and be able to distribute it over and over to our partners. And that we have also learned from this pandemic, because initially we were thinking we must diversify our business models in order to kind of expect the worst for the next time when something like this happens. But actually we turned it around and we looked at the hotel's business and thought, no, we want to make sure that our customers make revenue during these difficult times, to be able to change the resources, the bedrooms, into something else like meeting rooms and book it out for an hour or two, and reutilize their parking spaces in city centers to local residents, and so on. And again, that is enabled through the cloud. Collaboration I spoke about very early, and you know, we have really strong partnerships with our connections. But I think the core at it is to create a frictionless experience. If it's easy to integrate something, then it feels like one single platform. Sure. And I've been listening today to your broadcast, and there were some arguments towards a one singular platform that can handle everything. But again, to mirror James there, I believe, and we at Muse believe, that it is much better to take an expert in each of the categories that are out there in hospitality tech, to be able to generate your own fitting technology stack that fits your hotel.
I don't remember who said that Leonardo da Vinci days are over. So, you know, the days that somebody can do it all are pretty much behind us. With this hyper specification when it comes to technology, it's very hard to find a PMS that can do it all, right?
Correct. But you have other players in the market through acquisition and through different ways of getting into the market and integrating the systems that they have acquired, such as, you know, Sabre, Amadeus, and so on. You have a lot of drives to kind of unify all the different platforms into one, which is, you know, the drive there. I can't seem to see my slides at the moment. Oh, there. Thank you.
Transparency.
And then lastly, transparency. So, you know, we have our pricing online. Many of our partners have their pricing online. It's very clear how much the hotel will pay per month. There is no integration costs. There is no additional maintenance cost. What you see is what you get, and this is the key as well. I mean, you know, to be confident and be able to say this is what you will pay at the end of the day is also, I believe, a strong mark of a cloud software today. And if I could go just to the last slide, if I may, because this gets me really excited. I'm a real distribution nerd, and from different industries, I've been trying to always collaborate and interconnect different systems. And being part of Muse today and being able to connect not only through distribution to all of these channels, but also to all these different providers is absolutely amazing. And this will give the hotels the ability to choose their own fitting technology stack going forward, through the frictionless connections that all of our partners can offer today through the cloud system. So you asked me before where I think it's going. I'm a big advocate of cloud, always have been, ever since I started programming in the early 2000s. I was always, you know, a big kind of bias towards the cloud system, definitely.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
I would go to Klaus. So Klaus, we all have a pretty good idea of what revenue management is. We have a revenue manager here, Federica. She's been a revenue manager for over a decade now, right? And But for many people, being a revenue manager still means working with Excel files. So can you tell us a little more and maybe try to bring revenue management out of the 20th century?
Yeah, hi everyone, and I'm actually in a real hotel, not just talking about hotels. So I'm beautiful Vail, Colorado here. I think yeah, revenue management has never been more important than now. Lots of people are talking about the necessity of revenue management in times when you have reduced revenues, but there is the long-term perspective really hasn't changed of the need for more dynamic pricing, more real-time decision making, and infusing science into how your prices are being established in the hotel. And just the last few months have shown that a human is just not able to keep up with the rapidly changing market environment that we're all undergoing through right now. We have seen pickups happening within 24 to 72 hours, hotels going from 10% to 70% very shortly. Before arrival dates, we have seen governments changing restrictions and governments making changes to travel behaviors and travel opportunities. So a automated system can really help with the dynamic opportunities within a hotel. And I'm just seeing the kind of cleaning behind me. Hilton here is taking the cleaning very seriously, so which is good. And on the other hand, you know, I have a couple slides here. We don't necessarily need to go through them. You know, when we talk about distribution,
you should be able to see my screen, right?
I can see the screen. Yeah. You know, what's undeniable as well is that that the number of touch points and the number of data points we're getting from customers as they're going through the customer journey is increasing dramatically. So a typical customer. Google did a lot of research around that. We'll leave about 7,000 data touch points or data crumbs, I would call them, over 4 months. 534 Google searches, as somebody else has mentioned before. That you know, people do a lot of search online, and that leaves a lot of data points, and that generates a lot of data that can be actioned on and cannot be done by an Excel spreadsheet and by a human. We could just go to the next slide very quickly. So the greatest challenge really for companies today is not to keep up with the competitors that we all like to look at. You know, what is my hotel next door doing? Or what is my market doing? Or what is Airbnb doing? But it's really keeping up with the customers. And I fundamentally believe that customers are expecting everyone in the hotel industry to provide them with a different choice of options, with a different choice of the distribution methodologies, and with a better experience, and with the right experiences that are tailor-made and custom-made for the particular opportunity or experience that customers are looking for. So it's not so much keeping up with the competitors, but it's really keeping up with the consumers that are being educated by retail companies, e-commerce companies, online ordering companies that are so much more advanced in their technology than hotels are today. If we can go to the next slide. So if we kind of frame that in a bigger picture, we talked about moving to the cloud and cloud versus legacy. In general, across all companies and across all industries, IT spending will be about $1.3 trillion, and that's just the move from legacy systems to the cloud. This is not just hospitality, this is across all industries over the next few years. The amount of unstructured data is going to increase fivefold to 136 zettabytes of data that we all need to make decisions on. And the global spending on AI in the next 5 years will increase also fivefold. So put all that together, you have new systems that are active, that are sitting in the cloud. You have a huge amount of data that you need to make decisions on. And you have new capabilities with artificial intelligence, machine learning, and just much better science that gives you way better opportunities to come up with the right decisions at the right time for your guests. I think I have one more slide here. So when you look at your revenue management system, kind of how I see it, the revenue management system is very similar to your GPS for a hotel. The GPS tells you kind of directionally where you should be going, what kind of price you should be setting. So it looks at all these disparate data elements It helps you make very quick and accelerated decision making, and it infuses your revenue with what we call revenue science. So yes, you can use Excel spreadsheets, but if you think about a typical hotel having to make about 5 million pricing decisions every year, probably even more this year than in any year before. Who or what human, other than the superhumans, but what human can make 5 million decisions every single year and get all of them right? And a revenue management system might not get all of them right, but they will definitely get more of them right than a human will get right.
Sure.
So kind of wrapping up this particular segment here, for us, it's not so much about revenue management now, it's more about profit optimization. We have some tools that look at total revenue management, that pull in different revenue streams from rooms, F&B, meetings, and other areas. Getting the data consolidated into one place, helping hotels with better budgeting and forecasting processes, and automating that process is very, very critical this year, as hotels are struggling with rapid, iterative, dynamic forecasting. And then we're also looking at feeding in all the other areas that you can see here about loyalty, brand awareness, personalization, targeted offers, the optimal business mix, and just generally for asset managers and owners, what's really critical right now is not just paying your debt at the end of the month and being able to pay your mortgages, but overall increasing your asset value for your hotel. So directionally, revenue management has moved on dramatically. I would have said maybe 10 years ago, what is the worth of revenue management in times like these? Revenue management, the modern revenue management processes and approaches have a huge impact even in times of these when hotels are running 50 or 60 or below.
Yeah, sure. Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for the insights. Very, very interesting. I would go to Jordan now. So Jordan, I have a 1 million question for you to start with. Well, let's talk about CRS. Okay, so what is the difference between a CRS and a booking engine?
Yeah, I think ultimately what you see in any facet of technology is that products get developed around customer needs. And so to answer that question, I feel like I need to hop back to the kind of founding, and I think we should add channel manager into this too, with James having a great infographic about connecting into different OTAs, metas, and GDS. When you look at the history of a CRS, right? It was basically, the idea was, I think it was back in the 70s, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that the European airlines formed Amadeus to solve their own distribution challenges, and then the Americans formed Sabre. So Europeans 1, Americans 0, once again. And basically, the idea was that they could take that technology and use the same principles for inventory and supply management in the hotel industry. And so the CRS was basically giving hotels the ability to tap into that GDS capability and a global travel agent network. And so the way that CRS developed over time has been very geared towards custom builds, really geared at the groups and brands on the hotel side, and really focused on how do you maximize business with travel agents. Now, if you fast forward, travel agent industry obviously is still a huge part of hotels and how we're selling rooms, the brick and mortar. But also is taking less and less share. 1996, we're going to fast forward, and Expedia and Booking are founded. And so after that, you basically had this explosion of OTAs. So once we had the explosion of OTAs, fast forward another 10 years, and SiteMinder's founded, and a bunch of the other channel management companies start coming online, initially solving the issue of, okay, I don't want to log into my Booking extranet, Hotwire hotels when all these were different channels. And it basically simplifies and streamlines how you manage rates and inventory across different online platforms. So, and now you look at, kind of put that in the context of where James is at today with that great infographic from SiteMinder. Now SiteMinder is getting GDS capabilities, meta capabilities, all these things that the CRS was initially developed for. The channel managers are also taking on. So, and kind of getting to your question more specifically, Simone, the booking engine is the front end. It's the shopping cart of the hotel website. If you go on Shopify, that whole experience is completely integrated. In hotels, there's certain challenges about the way that we load inventory and data and connect through other channels and ensure that we don't have overbooking. Whereas a shoe store will just tell you that the inventory is run out. It's much more dynamic in the hotel industry and rapidly changing. So when hoteliers are looking at booking engines, the things they want to look for are mobile optimization, speed, conversion rate optimization, and actual kind of benchmarking against their existing channels, load time. So it's a lot about kind of UX, front-end performance, and a shopping experience. And how do you get someone who's clicked from your hotel website into the booking funnel as quickly as possible? The channel manager is focused on the back end, understanding the data, managing your rates, and connecting into as many relevant channels as possible. And being able to do that seamlessly without having overbookings, with being able to quickly and seamlessly integrate with your property management system. And so I think the question for me is less the CRS versus booking engine, and it's more CRS and channel manager seem to be converging quite a bit. And both of those companies, if you look at the Pegasuses of the world or the SiteMinders of the world, the CRS and the CRS and the booking engine or the channel manager providers are also providing booking engines now. And so the reason that you want to have it modular, like James was saying, is you don't want to force a client into something. SiteMinder is really focused on creating the best channel manager experience with the best data, with the the most seamless connections, with the fastest speed to getting your job done. With as much efficiency as possible, but they're offering that booking engine to make it more convenient for their clients. And so we're seeing the convergence amongst these three. In terms of where I see things going in the future, there's a cool company that's still in a little bit stealth mode out here in the States called Six Travel, that's able to integrate the entire booking experience into the hotel website. So I think that's where we're going to end up going, is getting booking engine capabilities more integrated with hotel websites. So there's in conversion rate optimization, the more clicks you have to get through a booking funnel, the more drop off you have just naturally. All else.
So it's like an API integration into the design, so that you get
exactly
a experience.
Yeah. Go on Shopify, and you're not going to click to a separate URL with a shopping cart on it. So how do you get the booking engine capabilities directly into hotel websites? And now obviously there's a whole slew of challenges and why that doesn't happen, because tons of hotel websites are built on CMSs, open source CMS like WordPress, or custom CMS like a lot of the digital marketing agencies are providing. And so figuring out how to integrate everything seamlessly can be challenging. And I'm actually more surprised that we haven't seen more marketing agencies building the booking engines. I think Net Affinity out of Ireland is a great example of a company doing that I think is a really interesting angle, because ultimately a digital marketing agency has the most expertise in website optimization, speed, customer acquisition.
UX,
Pegasus has UX, exactly, and Pegasus has a really cool feature. Obviously, they're a digital marketing agency as well. So Pegasus has a really cool feature where you can basically run your Google ads, and you dynamically insert the price that you distributed on the Google ads from the CRS, and they basically pipe that through into the booking engine. So you see the same price in Google ads, the exact price that you're going to get relative to what you see in the booking engine, so that they're able to get higher conversion rates, because basically the user's getting a consistent experience. And when they click that ad, it basically qualifies them that they're willing to pay that price. So there's some really interesting stuff coming in. And I think it ultimately comes down to, how do you shrink the booking funnel as much as possible and make it as easy as possible? I mean, I'm still shocked when, we have leads coming through HotelTechReport, hotels looking for help on, finding a booking engine, or a hotel website developer and marketing agency. And they still don't have a booking engine, and they're, you got to write into the hotel for, to make your reservation, or, there's just all these crazy things that we still see. And I'm shocked every day. But, I think ultimately, the problem is that we're in a reactive industry, and it's understandable, because it's so complex running a hotel. It's way harder to run a hotel than it is to run an apartment building. It's so operationally complex. You add all these other services onto it, and it's just a total nightmare. And then you add all the channels that we're integrating to, and thank God for some of these companies like SiteMinder that are helping us kind of manage that. But the problem is that we develop these technologies around buyers' needs, and those buyers' needs are based on the problem they're facing in a specific moment. So SiteMinder, Sabre, Amadeus are started to solve this distribution problem on GDS. SiteMinder started to solve a problem with OTA distribution and having too many channels to connect into. And then, the booking engine is basically the next evolution of the independent hotels saying, we want to be able to take these bookings online like every other business does. And so these products evolve over time and they start to come together. And you see the same thing in hotel operations. You have preventive maintenance and engineering, facilities management, cleaning, all that front desk operations and task management. All these product portfolios start to converge together. But if you force everyone down one single path, to James's point again, you end up losing customers because they don't like a specific module you have. You see, it's kind of like Adobe's Creative Suite, basically, right? Like Adobe offers Premiere and Photoshop and all these different tools, and each of those tools has a competitor that is much better at that tool. Like Adobe Premiere is popular because it's in Creative Suite, but everyone in Hollywood uses Media Composer by Avid. And so, but you may not have heard about that. So I think it's just this bundling, unbundling, point solution and specialized versus, holistic solution that we're seeing, and just product portfolios evolving over time that make this seem really complex, but actually it's not that hard. And at HotelTechReport, the way that we look at it is like the first phase of our mission is to meet buyers where they are. So if a buyer is searching for a CRS, we're going to help them find a CRS. They're searching for a booking engine, we'll help them find a booking engine. And then over time, what we'll do is start to dictate that conversation more as we get to scale, that we can really help them understand the next level of where they need to be going, not just solving the problems that they have today.
That's great. And we got a little less than 10 minutes, but it would be great to ask you this question. And do you think we will ever get to a plug and play market? James?
I actually do, yeah, and I think there'll be certain platforms that are getting much closer to it. It depends what you're plugging into, of course, but if you're looking at the journey of a reservation, if you like, from online right down to the PMS, that should not be impossible. Right, and even to Joseph's point in terms of the remote implementation of product, it's really down to technology companies, which basically we all are, to ensure that we're developing products correctly. That that hoteliers don't need that additional support and on-site training and hand-holding to be able to use a product. Otherwise, we haven't done the job great. Like we've actually in SiteMinder's history, we've never gone on site. But of course, our channel manager is a very different thing to a PMS. It's certainly a journey that a lot of people, a lot of organizations within our business are looking at and talking to. So there's no reason why.
Joseph, do you agree with that?
We won't be there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we already have integrations in our product, in our marketplace product, that are fully plug and play. The hotels click a button, we exchange authentication, and we can exchange data immediately. So technology is there. And in some cases, the partnerships are also there, and that is the important aspect here. Is the strong partnerships that actually, as technology providers, we can push each other to the limits of what our softwares can do in order to automate the whole process and take the friction out for the hoteliers. Because at the end of the day, they're not technology experts; they are hoteliers.
Technology experts. Klaus.
Exactly.
Yes.
So do you think we will ever get to a plug and play industry? And if you do, when do you think this is possible?
I think we're already on the path there. Honestly, we see these marketplaces emerging. Obviously Muse has a marketplace. SiteMinder has a marketplace. Many other companies have marketplace type or app store type marketplaces. So I think it's really, really exciting to see the development with these new technologies, cloud-based, plug and play emerging. I'm fully confident that over the next few years, we will see more and more of these tools that hotels can just download and install and trial. And if they're not happy after 30 days or 60 days, just uninstall it and install something else. I'm 100% confident that that's going to happen.
Jordan, do you agree with that?
I think it really comes down to understanding the economics on the vendor side to think about where this is going. So, right now, and this is so that the hoteliers can understand the other side of the equation. So right now, the lifetime value of a PMS is around 7 years. If you look at the lifetime value of other SaaS that you can try and churn quickly and super low cost, it's closer to 18 months for really, really strong products. And so I think that, we all want it to get there. It's going to make things a lot more efficient in the market, but it's going to end up leading to a lot shorter lifetime values. And so I don't know if it's completely in the vendor's interests to basically get there. And I think on the hotelier side, there is this element. I was talking with a CEO of an operations software company. He was basically saying to me, like, if I were in any other industry, my sales force would be 1/10 the size of what it is. And I think that there's this behavior on the buyer side of this market to really require kind of hand holding and coaching all the way through that sales journey. And, if you look at any other market, like a tool like Dropbox or MailChimp, ultimately there's not that same type of buyer experience. And so, look at our iPhones, right? Like, you don't have to be a technology expert to get on the iPhone. And, my grandma's using FaceTime now. And I think ultimately we should get there. It's the vendor economics that we have to look at to determine how probable it is. And then we have to look at the buyer behavior and demands. And on both sides, I'm not seeing super strong, like the technology is there already, like, what Muse is doing and what SiteMinder is doing with their exchanges. I just think those two barriers still exist. And ultimately, it's not just hotels. We all hear the complaints that the hotel industry is slow to adopt innovation. I think vertical markets in general, when you need very specialized software, it's harder to get the whole market somewhere. And so, it's a long way of saying, I think it's going to happen. I think the technology is there today. But I think that there's certain forces that lead me to believe that it won't happen for another really 5 years. And it may happen for SiteMinder clients that are plugging in. It may happen for Muse clients, but I don't think it's going to be a broader, kind of market integration as quickly as we hope it would be.
That makes sense. Okay, guys, thank you so much for your contributions here. Very, 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 very welcomed. Thank you, James. Thank you, Klaus, Jordan, and Joseph. And I think, Enzo, we can move to the next chapter.
Yeah,
cool.
sure.
Thanks for having us.
I want to thanks again from my side. And let me leave this chapter with a funny sentence regarding each product you're representing, guys. So from the RMS point of view, I will say the life is too short and nice to sit in front of an Excel. So move from an Excel to an RMS, right? Of course, cloud is not the future, it's the present. So anyone is still working on a legacy, I think they are still in a bottom line. And if they want to see a bright future, they have to definitely move to the cloud system and speed up, integration, connectivity, and data flow. Regarding Channel Manager, I know that a lot of hotels in the world are using Channel Manager. But if we look at the percentage of how many are using and how many are not using a Channel Manager, I think there's a lot of space to grow, right, James? Did I say correct?
Absolutely. I think
the largest part of hotels in the world is still not using a Channel Manager. So that's unbelievable.
Really?
And yeah, that's really something I was reading recently on research, which is more or less the same also for RMS, if we look at that. And anyway, if you are looking for the right product, guys, Jordan in HotelTechReport, they created this amazing, marketplace where hoteliers actually are reviewing each product in different categories. So you can easily have, an overlook of what is going to be the right decision from an hotelier's feedback point of view. So thanks again. Hi, Klaus. Bye.
All right, have a good one.
In your amazing hotel. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, James. And see you at the next. Bye, guys.